Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life. Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. This episode is being sponsored by Ritual and Shelter in Homewood, Alabama. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual and Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, Reiki, chakras, auras, accessing the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual and Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversations with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match the customer's unique interests and energy. They offer tarot sessions as well as Reiki, sound bowl, and crystal healing. Visit ritualshelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. Or find them on Instagram at Ritual Shelter Shop. As this podcast goes to air, we're in the energy of this first new moon of summer. It's in Cancer, as we are also in the sun sign of Cancer. So the energy of Cancer represents many things, but it's all about slowing down long enough to really feel the emotions that maybe you've been just so busy that you haven't had a chance to process. So it is a time to be patient, to receive this soul nourishment, and to feel safe in your own emotions. At the heart of all of this is healing. Cancer teaches us to heal and to restore and to replenish ourselves, to get outside, to slow down, meditate, be on the raft, float with the water energy. It is to find feminine and allowing you to really understand and tune into your intuition. This is how you'll grow as you bring up this energy. It is about allowing yourself to be raw and vulnerable and untamed. I talk about calling in the wild woman of summer. And that is the energy all of us are in right now. This new moon, which was on the 5th, closely conjunct Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Sirius is known as the dog star, hence the term dog days of summer. Sirius and his appearance in the sky in July and August was associated with fire and heat and fever by the ancient Greeks from early on, as was his association with dogs as the chief star in the constellation Canis Major. He was referred to as the dog, which also referred to the entire constellation. The star is also associated with wealth and fame, although it also is viewed as somewhat of a protective energy for all of us. So right now, considering all that is going on, the star shining down on us can feel more like a conservative vibration prevailing around us at this time. It's almost like a flashlight shining down on us. So there is illumination, but there seems to be a little energy kind of pushing on those boundaries, kind of holding the energy there. I've noticed a feeling of stagnation in the universe. I've been woken up several days in a row with this message. Everyone is just hanging on, holding tight, kind of like the Four of Earth or the Four of Pentacles in the Tarot, holding on so tight. We are tying up our energy instead of letting it circulate. I see this with people calling me for help. They want to make changes, they are unhappy, but afraid to try something different, afraid to invest in themselves. So what happens? They keep doing the same thing over and over and over, thinking eventually it will work out. It may, but you know the famous Einstein quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The universe is always spinning, and we must too continue to move and grow and let the energy flow. I know there is a lot of uncertainty in the universe, but if we all wait to see what is going to happen, we lose our own empowerment and become victims. When we step out of the box, try new techniques or therapy, or change a routine, we allow ourselves to co-create our lives. We can do this one step at a time by being present. We don't have to allow the future to scare us or the past to bring in fear. We remain present, work with our energy field, and open up to new possibilities. We shapeshift our lives to align with our authentic self, our soul. This is why I offer private mentoring programs. Do you need help in slowing down to access the messages of your soul so that you can live your dreams and your purpose? My private mentoring programs can help you tune into your purpose and also where you're caught in the gap. I've expanded my offers and broken them down to meet you where you are and where you're wanting to open up to in your life. Do you need help in just starting a spiritual practice and opening up your radiant light, learning to raise your vibration with Reiki? Do you need help in breaking old habits like emotional eating and excess drinking? This is my shape-shifting mentoring. Or maybe letting go of energy drains that keep you from being the leader in your work. Maybe you're ready to learn how to read the messages of your soul and open up to your Akashic records. Schedule a spiritual upgrade breakthrough call with me, and let's talk about how my programs can help you. Yes, they come with a warning. This work will change your life. It can seriously improve your body, mind, and spirit. Side effects? Yes, you may see yourself or others as they really are. You may experience loss of excess baggage, resulting in major life changes. You may become the person you're really meant to be. My private mentoring programs can help you upgrade your spiritual path. My students are saying they understand their energy so much better. They aren't taking on other people's stuff. Their intuition is growing. They aren't holding on to old emotions, and they are feeling happier in their lives. I can help you understand your gifts and abilities and gain confidence along your path. Schedule a complimentary spiritual upgrade breakthrough call with me, and let's talk about how we can get you started. The link to schedule will be in the show notes. Today's episode is a great example of how you can use life's difficulties as an opportunity to grow instead of becoming a victim to them. My guest is Selina Maitreya. She shares a radical process of self-transformation and how to recognize and transform the difficulties and challenges you experience into opportunities to find deeper peace. Her brand new book, Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life, is all about how to respond with love to life's difficulties. In this episode, we talk about practical methods, exercise, and action steps to help you access and raise your inner vibration and build the foundation for a truly abundant life. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause, center, and set an intention for where you are. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Taking a nice deep inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, bring the breath all the way down, calling all your energy into you. Slowing down. Inhale, expand the breath up the body. Exhale, releasing the breath. Slowing down, centering. Taking another deep inhale. And as you exhale, calling in the spiritual body, calling it into a line right on top of the physical, the emotional, the mental bodies. Centering, grounding. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And exhale, dropping deep into your heart. Right into that deepest part, feeling that connection of your spirit and the greater spirit, source, creator, God. Know that you are loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around us as we set this space. Taking a moment and noticing this new energy of summer, under the energy of this new moon. See your path, see your growth. Taking a moment as we call in the directions for guidance and protection. To the south, the west, the north, and the east. Above us, Father Sky. Below us, Mother Earth. Right into that deepest part of your heart. Setting an intention under this new moon energy. And now see it, hear it, feel it, know it. And allow the elevated emotions how you want to feel to radiate out all around you. Setting that energy, programming your aura, and then exhaling all the way back down, centering the energy, opening your heart, allowing the third eye to illuminate. And as you're ready, blinking the eyes back open, coming back. My guest today, Selina Maitreya, is a lecturer, author, and spiritual teacher, the creator of Clarion Call, an online conference of spiritual teachers. She is also a founding member of the Manhattan Holistic Chamber of Commerce and a past board member of the Boston Theosophical Society. She lives in Arlington, Massachusetts. So let us welcome Selina to the show. Welcome, Selina.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and as we've already been talking and chatting, we have so many things in common. So how exciting to sit down and chat with you today. And congratulations on your book, Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life.
Well, thank you. It's a very exciting place to be after so much work and all of the wonderful effort that went into putting this book out to the market.
Yeah, I know what it takes. That is for sure. So you do talk about a life-changing event that really kind of prompted a lot of this work to bring this forward for you. Let's talk about that. Let's start there. What was that life-changing event?
Well, I had been a spiritual student way before the event for about, I guess at least 18 to 20 years, really working very hard to learn how to embody my spiritual beliefs and values. And in 2013, after 15 years of being a single parent and supporting my two kids, 95%, keeping them in their home, working, being a spiritual student, I had an opportunity to sell my house. My kids were with the women that they're now married to. And it was time for me to move on and build the next step of my life. And Source had told me that I'd be able to be a teacher full time once my kids went off into the world. So 2013 found me driving to my house to clean it for the very last time before our closing. And on that very first day of the rest of my life, a woman hit my car on the way to clean my house. And I was left with a traumatic brain injury that kept me out of the world for the better part of 5 years. It took 5 years for me to recover, during which the book was delivered to me. And then it took another, well, it's just now. So it's about another 6 years for me to be able to work more than 2 hours a day. So now I'm up to about 4 or 5 hours a day. And that was the event. It was quite life-changing for a variety of reasons.
Wow, that is life-changing. We never know, right? We never know.
No, we just open our arms up to what's given to us and look for the higher octave purpose and run with it.
Hopefully, Selina, that's what we do. I know that so many people, though, struggle and stay in the victim, struggle and stay in the complaining and all the excuses that we make for ourselves, which is a human condition. But being able to find the higher path, being able to find the lessons and really what this is about is a really gift of a spiritual practice, I believe.
It is, for sure. And that's what the book is all about. It teaches us how to utilize any daily difficulty. You don't need a traumatic brain injury or to be taken out of your life for such a long time, because every day with the world in its really unusual, gorgeous, but also chaotic state, we're given opportunities every moment of the day to either choose to respond to any piece of irritation or stress that shows up. We get the choice to respond from the lower frequencies that you are defining as human, or the higher frequency of who we are. which I define as divine. So the book teaches us how to use any of those moments and choose the divinity within us as our response system, which is not the normal state of affair, even for spiritual students who've long been on a path.
Yeah, I was in a car wreck. I got T-boned back in 2019 before the world shut down and had a near-death-like experience. Now, I didn't know that is what happened. I remember being super hyper during the event and remember getting out what I thought I got out of my car, but I never left my car, checking everything out. I can still remember like the inside of the other car and then came back into the body with a big message, but I didn't know what had happened. And with the world shutting down, it sent me into a very strange state of my own being. And it has taken me several years in talking to other people that have had near death like experiences to really understand it. Very powerful. Yeah.
It's a very, and everyone's experience, I'm sure, is very different. What I love is that daily life provides us with so many opportunities to grow and shift our consciousness, but people don't know how to affect that change. They'd love to be able to respond to their teenagers slamming their door, their silent partners at home, the people on the road that are cutting them off. They'd love to respond to all of these moments from love, but they're not sure how to do it. And that's why I wrote a book that Spirit is directed to teach people, because they said that this is the time with so much difficulty in the world today. This is the time for those on a path to really learn how to use every single one of those experiences as an opportunity to grow their consciousness, because that's the purpose, they told me, of daily difficulty. They said we have it all wrong, that we've been conditioned to respond to difficulty with more of the same, which keeps us in low vibration. But literally, difficulty is meant to remind us that we are love, but we need to tap into that frequency in order to shift into a higher realm before we respond.
Oh, I so agree. And I think you call them daily irritations.
Well, yes, but it's how we respond to them. So when we're able to be in the moment, be aware of, witness as we be, and shift in that moment of recognition that we're, something has just landed that shifted our emotional body. So the emotional body becomes an alert system to allow us to see, while we witness, that we're out of alignment with love. And then we get to connect with the highest knowing within us, the intuitive body, which we've learned how to develop a relationship with through the book, because it teaches us how to develop the intuitive body. And once that's developed, we're able to alert it. And once we leave the energy of fear by engaging the intuitive body, then we can respond from love. But it's a process.
Yeah, that fear, right? It is a process. And as you say in your book too, it's not like a quick fix. It is a process. And fear is so crippling for so many people, and we get stuck in it. And I do think that's what happened with me in that near-death experience. I had this big message. I couldn't do it. And I got caught in all of this fear. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right. And yeah. And so it did take a while. But I think it's so important when we recognize we can use these circumstances, irritations, whatever it may be, to help us understand. I had something that happened yesterday to me. I tend to a medicine wheel. And when I went up there, someone had vandalized it. Someone had walked through the property, pulled up my crystals, and it hit me so deeply. And I don't think it was just because it was a crystal. I think it was like the energy of my own soul and the past lives I carry and the desecration of sacred land that hit me so intensely. But there was also a big message in there for me. I reset it. I did a lot of blessings and okay, the land is okay. But there was a bigger message for me. And so I was able to bring that forward. I had to shed tears and I was pretty exhausted by the end of the day, also working the land, but there was that big message and I could have looked at it either way. Yeah. So I think that's what you're talking about when we can find ways.
And so many people, come to me through the book, through the workshops, through the lectures, and ask me, because they're so concerned about the world today, what can I do? How can I affect change? And some of us, like you, like I, are given very clear directive about what we're meant to be doing here. Your podcast, your books, your work, same for me. But a lot of people aren't sure. And one of the things that's so important for everyone to know is that we individually affect the collective of oneness that is the energy within us all, that is the energy that created all, through the actions of our everyday life. We can go to workshops as spiritual people, we can read books, but it's, we can go to yoga, we can meditate, but it's what we do off the mat. It's what we do out of the yoga studio, because that's 97% of our life, out of the studio and off the mat. So in learning how to utilize all of the difficulty, which we know is constant and, daily, moment to moment, sometimes for some people, using difficulty, learning how to use that to grow our consciousness, grows the consciousness of the collective. So I always tell people the best thing you can do to help the world is to help yourself become more conscious, and not thinking you're more conscious, but acting throughout your day from higher consciousness.
Yeah, let's just let that sink in. I so agree. I so agree. Because sometimes people think, well, I can't spend the time or the money on myself, but it helps everybody around you. It helps your lineage, your family, and the world at large. So I 100% agree with you on that.
I've created a whole multi-tiered plan to take this work out across the country. Spirit has directed me to create a very complete way for people to access this information. So once we learn what the steps are to utilizing difficulty to shift our consciousness, it really costs us zero, except for our willingness to spend the time learning and changing, our willingness to spend the time experimenting and shifting. So, I just thought that was a really important thing to share, because we do live in a world where everything is commoditized. Is that a word? Where everything is a commodity. Right? And spirituality doesn't need to be a commodity. We can learn how to do these practices, and that's why, Terry, that's why I really believe Spirit downloaded to me not a book of teachings, but a workbook that contains teachings and practices and stories about people who have used the work, so the reader can see the shifts they're about to make. Because I've gone to a lot of workshops, and some of them have been absolutely wonderful, but you still come out saying, what do I do now? Like, okay, a couple of days later, what do I do now? Or I read a great book and I'm making notes, and I put Post-it notes in all my books. And then I come away going, okay, well, where do I start gathering all this information? What do I do with it? That's why I wanted to write a book that tells people in each chapter, it's thematic. It grows as the book develops and as the reader moves on. And so if they're taking each chapter and working the chapter, they're seeing those changes as they go through. So I love that about it.
I agree. And I love that about your book. It becomes a workbook that you can go along with it. I agree. And I'm the same way. I create different levels too, because I don't think it has to be like for a luxury thing for only those that have the wealth. I think it should be for everyone. And I think everybody can access it. I do think part of the problem is people want to talk or just read or whatever, but the practice, right? It's just sitting in the energy and being on Mother Earth and slowing down that can help us to really open up to these teachings. Yeah.
Well, the slowing down for sure is always a lovely gift. And how we respond to the difficulty in the moment, because you can slow down during the good times, but if your state changes during that moment, like you can be driving in your car really calm, really happy. Or here's a better example. Years ago, before I was this mature in my work, I was excited about being a spiritual student. I was learning how to embody, but I hadn't had the 20 years behind me that I have now. And my kids were little, and I had a room in my house. I lived in a tri-level house, and the bottom was the kids' playroom, and next to it was my meditation room. So my kids were little, and they were playing in their meditation room, and I said, listen, they were playing in their playroom. I said, listen, I'm going to go meditate, so can you guys just watch on your iPads or do some reading? Oh, no problem, Mamo. So I went in and I started to meditate, and I'm really starting to get deep. And then next thing I know, I hear these little bodies wrestling and pounding into the door that I'm in, and they're laughing and having a great time, but I couldn't meditate. So I lean out the door and, oh, listen, guys, remember your commitment. I'm trying to meditate. Oh, no problem. We're so sorry. So they go back to their reading. I go back to meditating. I get even deeper. And then the next thing I know, more laughter, lots of bodies flying into the door. And before you know it, I went from being in meditation to jumping out of my chair, throwing open the door, and screaming at the top of my lungs at these two little boys who within 30 seconds wondered what happened to their mother and who is this imposter. And I thought the same thing. So I know that our state can shift in a moment if we aren't really grounded in the practice of really learning how to respond. That would never happen to me now, but it happened to me then a lot. And I've watched my students over the years really make these transformations where they're so grounded that they're able to come out of that kind of a situation and just once again retain that state, because what we do is we retain it 24/7 eventually, and nothing really throws us off our core. And we've built such a personal vibrational core from each one of these situations of responding to difficulty from love that our core is so solid that very little throws us off.
Great story. Yeah, great lesson.
Isn't that
I learned
funny?
to, right, it is. Yeah, my kids would always say, can't bother mother if someone would call for me. She's meditating. That was always what they would tell them. And I actually practiced. My kids were my guinea pigs, especially when I was first learning Reiki and all. They were, oh my God, I saw so much shift with them reflecting to me. So that was a really amazing thing. But I learned to meditate right in the middle of New York City. You know, the Open Center. Do you remember the Open Center?
I sat with Walter, who created the Open Center, when he was moving from Soho to the Village. His son is a photographer from Canada who had come to one of my lectures. So Walter and I sat on folding chairs while he was sharing with me where everything was going to be during all of the craziness of the construction. Unfortunately, they're now closed, which is unfortunate.
But they have started something new called Insight New York, I think.
It's online, yeah, but yeah, it's unfortunate they closed this space. Yeah.
I learned so much there. I learned sound healing. I think the last it was over there on the east side, like in the 20s, maybe. I think that's where it last moved.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
this was where I was sitting with Walter when they moved from Soho, where they were for years. They were in Chelsea. They were on 29th Street.
That's where I
off
remember
of
them
5th.
last. Yeah.
That's where they were. Yeah, that's probably where you saw them. It was a beautiful space. I'd been there quite a bit.
Yeah. Chanting, sound healing. Oh my gosh, so many different things. Yeah, it was. It really was. So I am very grateful to them. And to learn how to meditate with all that going around. And you know what? I think that's important that we recognize exactly what you're saying, right? And find it. When I first started meditating, I would gone through a difficult time with my ex-husband, and that's kind of what perpetuated me into spiritual development. And I can remember exactly what you said, come out of meditation and there we are fighting at the end, and it's like seeing and feeling that shift. Okay, stay calm, stay calm, right? So many challenges in life.
And it's very profound. When we go from, I love what you just said. It's a very profound experience when we're able to be in emotional difficulty and have a process that we can use to shift how we feel. Because really, when we come out of, there's one practice in the book that actually got me the book. My acquisitions editor told me that he had been a Buddhist for 30 years and had been in a traditions by publisher for almost as long, and that he had always had monkey mind and he couldn't get rid of it. He said, but then I did your breath of life practice and it was gone. He said, I knew we needed to have this book out in the world.
So maybe you can explain that a little bit more for us.
So the practice is that when you are noticing that you are in an emotional state, you just find a place to have privacy for 5 minutes and close your eyes to shut out the physical world and turn your gaze inward. And literally just start what we call the breath of life, which is breathing in and out of the nose with the mouth closed, slowly, deeply, and easefully for a period of 5 minutes, keeping your attention completely on the breath, allowing any thoughts to come and go. That's it. And when you do that, you notice how you are before you go in. You do the 5 minutes to peace breath, and then come out and notice your state. And 90% of the people are going to be completely shifted. So the breath has been defined by Source, and this is important, I love this, as the physical manifestation of the soul. So that what happens literally in this practice is you're in an emotional state, which means you're in fear. If it's a difficult emotional state, frustration, anger, whatever, you're in fear. In the physical world, the third dimensional world, we can't be in two places at once. We can't go upstairs and down. We can't be healthy and well. We can't be healthy and sick at the same time. And you can't be in fear and in love. So when the emotional state calls to us, we're in low frequency. When we invoke the breath, the physical manifestation of the soul, we're immediately in alliance with our highest knowing. So we're out of fear and immediately into love, because you can't be in two places. So sitting in there for 5 minutes slows the body, signals the neurosympathetic nervous system to slow down. But most importantly, you're sitting in high vibration. You have direct connection with source energy. That's the breath. And so when you come out of that, you're completely different. And the breath, like as we were saying before, Terry, the breath costs us nothing, and it's with us 24/7. So it is a tool that we get to invoke.
Oh, I so agree. It's amazing what the breath can do, and don't overlook it, because many times people will. And there's so many reverse breathers, right? Most people are reverse breathers until they learn to breathe properly and work with the diaphragm. The diaphragm is just such a beautiful muscle that can really help us to be in that idea, within us are the wings that open us up because of the way in which it breathes. So I do agree. It is a very important thing. So I love that you have that in your book. So I'm sure that's just one of the many exercises you offer in the book.
Indeed, there are 8 to 10 practices that correlate with the teaching. There are stories of people who have done this work and what's come about from very specifically at points in their life. There's also an origin story that tells people how the book came about, which is really, people seem to really love that story because it really details how the book was given to me to use to move through what was a very, very difficult time in my life, having everything change in a heartbeat. And I got to live, I had already been living this work for many, many years. And in between the publication of the book and the writing of the book was a 2-year period. And I took 30 people, 10 at a time, 3 groups of 10 people through 10 months of working with the book. We took a different chapter every month, and I would come in with a teaching on the chapter. Then they'd go off and use the chapter every single day, noting what they learned, and they'd come back and they'd talk about all the many changes they saw, how they used it, and we'd go on to the next chapter. And we did that for 10 months, and I took 3 groups through that. So it was fascinating to see how the material was affecting these people's lives when they used it. And honestly, Breath of Life and the practices were incredibly helpful. It's what we need in order to know what do we do with what's being shared.
It is. And it can start that simple. And I love that you have that patience to do that. How awesome to get the research and see how people are going to react.
My book, can I tell you, Terry, you want to talk about patience? Oh my gosh. I had to record for 4 years because I couldn't type when the book was given to me. I couldn't read a newspaper. I could barely shower. I remember standing in my kitchen. You'll appreciate this. You're a New Yorker. I lived in Chelsea at London Terrace. I had a tiny little kitchen. And in the early days, I was standing there one day with a frying pan in one hand and an egg in the other going, I know these have something to do with each other, but what do I do with them? That's how bad it was. So when Spirit came through and said, we're giving you a book, I was like, oh my God, you've asked a lot of me. I'm going to assume that you know how we're going to do this because I can't even type. And they said, record into your phone. So for 4 years, I recorded their downloads until I could type. And then once I was able to start typing, it took me 2 years to change it into manuscript. And then they moved me to Woodstock. They moved me out of the city and up to Woodstock, New York, because I've always been connected to Source. But since my car event 11 years ago, I don't make plans anymore. I'm directed, and then my brain puts the plans in place. So they moved me up to Woodstock, New York. And within a day of walking in Woodstock, I met the editor for my book, a wonderful woman, Nancy Butler Ross. And then it took another year and a half to edit. So we're on to 7.5 years. It took about 8 years to finish this book and 2 years to do the workshops. And then I sold it. So it's been an
Wow.
11-year process.
That is really awesome. I really honor that. I do. And I know one of the things I work with myself is having patience, right? And slowing down. And I know this from making jewelry, the finishing, like you don't rush the finishing because that can ruin the whole thing, right? So having that patience and that wherewithal. I actually do like to record and transcribe. I think I sometimes bring it through better myself, right? And so I hear you on that. But what a great way, again, to just kind of like exemplify that idea of not getting caught in the victim of what was happening, but finding other ways and trusting the guidance.
Well, there was no question for me. I wish I could say it was an effort, but it wasn't. Spirit is so intelligent, right? We don't call it highest intelligence for no reason. It's so perfect in the way that it was given. I had been, since I was 14, I was introduced to spiritual material. And I had been working with my teacher for many years embodying before this was given to me. I call my car event the graduate work. And it was the graduate work and the book graduate work for our readers. And so when this happened, Spirit came through in the car and told me exactly what was going on. I've been a channel for 18, 19 years, and I hear them all the time. We're always connected. And so they came into the car and told me exactly what was going on. I was knocked out on impact. I had an incredible experience, and I was told to surrender, which I did. And so there was no question for me of how this was going to go down.
Wow. And just again, to repeat, you don't have to have a major car accident. You don't have to go get yourself involved in that to reach these levels of consciousness.
No events needed. No, there are books that can help you now.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, Selina, I live in the Deep South. And one of the things I've noticed since moving back here, now it's been, going on 13 years, is that the idea of spirituality and religion. So I have a lot of people that want to look at me down here in the Deep South like, woo, you can't talk about that down here. How do you address that?
So my students come from all faiths and denominations. The people that I find are attracted to this work come from all areas, as well as people who aren't associated with any major religion, but define themselves as spiritual. And there was a figure in the New York Times a while back. I honestly don't remember the exact figure because I don't remember things like that. But what I do remember was there was the whole point of the article was that there are more people now in this country, the United States, that identify as spiritual than as religious, which is kind of interesting, right? So I find I have people who associate with catechism, with Judaism, people who are Muslim. I haven't had anybody, because it is non-denominational. Everybody has the energy of love. We are all very different in our personal histories, in our religious beliefs. If we hold them in our fear and how it shows up, we're different in the way we look, we're different in what we love. But the one common energy in everybody, regardless of their religion, regardless of where they live, is love. That is within everybody. We all have the higher frequency within us. That's what we experience when we walk on the streets of New York and catch a stranger's eye and we both smile. That's what I connect to when I used to put my kids to bed every night. It wasn't Sam and Jake. It was the divine in me seeing the divine in them, the namasteing. That's what namaste means, right? The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. So this book is written by oneness. This book was dictated by oneness. This book is directed by oneness, which is the highest energy in all of us. So, of course, this book is going to attract people no matter what their religious beliefs are, because people who are ready, and not everybody is, and that's fine, but for people who are ready to actually live what they have believed as high octave spiritual students, that love is our response to everything, this is the pathway. This is a pathway for them. There are many pathways, of which this is one. So I think it attracts people who just are attracted to love.
Yeah, I agree. And spirituality is what opened me up to the idea of we are all one. It really is. I was raised Jewish in the South.
Me too, Jewish in the North.
Jewish in the North, Jewish in the South, and very isolated, didn't understand. My mother came from a large family, not Jewish, she converted. And it just didn't make sense, and why I had to like keep my head down and be in this one tight community down here in Birmingham. And it wasn't until I opened up into New York, opened up into the learning about the teaching of spirituality, that I started to understand that. And now I am an ordained minister of spiritual counseling because it was so profound in my life, and the idea of helping. And like you said, it's a universal teaching. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You can embrace religion or you don't have to. And that report was a Pew report that does show there are more people reaching out to being spiritual, right? And I think it's very important. And through all my studies, the spiritual teachings are above all of the religious teachings anyway. Mm-hmm. But the idea that we can all embrace that, and that you do shift it into love. And I love the idea of frequency. I talk about energy frequency all the time. And so it takes it out of a little box and opens it up to help us understand, what does frequency mean? What is vibration? Mm-hmm. Even, science, you can look at it through the brain patterns. Okay, let's change the frequencies of that through breath. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for sure. Frequency, of all the different multidimensionalities that we are, because we refer to ourselves as a one dimension, which is something the book helps us to look at and move through, I or me, that makes us a one-dimensional individual, but we're not. And when we refer to ourselves that way, when we believe that, then we don't have any option to change, because there's nothing to change, because you are only one-dimensional. But when we start by learning that we are multidimensional beings, we have physical bodies, physical brains, personalities, histories, emotional bodies, and then we have our two energy systems. We have lots of energy systems, but two main ones, our energy of fear, which comes from the ego and the pain, which we call low frequency, and the high vibration of love. And we actually go and take practices that give us this experience, and we start to recognize our daily life through the energy systems. Am I in low frequency or high frequency? And we know what that means and what it looks like. We're able then to recognize when we're in low frequency, and we're able to take one of the practices, of which the breath of life is only one, to be able to transform. But the other piece too, Terry, is that difficulty has a message for us. And Spirit in the book tells us that it's very important, before we transform the energy, to check in with our highest knowing and ask. And it gives us a practice, a three-step practice to do so. What am I to learn here? Because as you were talking about patience is something I was working on it for years before my car event, still working on. And I'm incredibly more patient, but I still have a lot to do. So Spirit has said that it's not just transforming the energy, but the difficult moments provide us an opportunity, if we go to our higher conscious and ask, what am I to learn here, to invoke patience as the practice that this particular piece of difficulty gave us. And then it teaches us how to invoke the practice. So we're shifting not just by noticing, we're shifting by noticing, going to source, asking, what am I to learn? What energy am I missing now? What high frequency energy, compassion, kindness do I need to fill myself with? And teaches us how to make that shift into more patience, and how to fill our energy with what we need. So it's a three-step process of recognition that we're in low frequency, going to source and asking, what am I to learn, and what frequency am I to fill myself with? And then we move back to our life. So with anything else, like weight training or resistance training in the gym, there are steps. We don't just want to change our body. We want to learn more about it. We want to understand what that change means. So the book isn't just about shifting our frequencies. It's about building relationship with the divine and going to the divine as our 24/7 GPS system. We're shifting the brain and the emotion as the GPS now. Oh my God, if my emotional body's out of whack, it means something. If my brain is telling me this, I have to do this. No, we learn how to really develop a deep relationship with the divine actively in our life. And then our emotional body becomes the alert system it was meant to be, to say, oh, got to go to source now. You're out of alignment. Oops, the brain then gives us the steps, the opportunity to put through in the physical world the steps that spirit has asked us to take on. So it's a whole shift.
I agree. And I also think when we look at it in terms of frequency, it takes the judgment out. I think sometimes we start judging those circumstances, what then creates that lower vibration that perpetuates that cycle. So if we can just look at it as frequency, we can lift that vibration without the judgment.
Well, we can lift judgment if we recognize it's low frequency and we take the steps to move into high frequency. Because you're absolutely right. Judgment is there are 4 blocks in the book that I discuss that there are 4 places where we block our ability to be in the energy of love. And the book details those 4 places for readers and offers practices. And one of those blocks is the judgment that we believe that our life that our circumstances and the people around us have to change before we're able to be happy. And it tells us in that chapter why that is a false belief and how we can actually supersede our current circumstances in order to experience love. But we need to recognize those judgments, the harsh judgments of ourselves, of other people, of situations. In the moment, we need to catch them and notice that we're there. And then we need in that moment to transform the energy. Because when we transform it in the moment, we're not adding to the collective negatively. We're shifting within ourselves in that moment. Plus, we build our inner core of neutrality. As that core of neutrality builds from all of this work we're doing, those events and those places don't bother us over time. That is one of the most fascinating aspects of this work that I noticed. I see it in myself. I saw it in the students that went through the 10-month program, and they would say, oh my God, my husband, like the parts of him that used to drive me crazy, this one part isn't driving me crazy anymore. I can't believe that. But that's how energy is so powerful. It really, truly is.
Yeah, that place of neutrality. I say own one pointed focus. Yes, definitely. Well, how many great things that we've talked about that your book covers. I think it's just awesome. What is your mission?
Terry.
What is your hopes that people will take away from this?
Well, thank you. I am on a mission, and I'm on a mission actually to take the work of the book into workshops and spiritual centers throughout the country. Spirit has given me a very synergistic approach to do that. So if there are any spiritual leaders out there listening, give me an email at selina@selinamaitreya.com, and I will be happy to talk with you about how we can bring this material to your center. My goal is to contribute to the collective. We live in very, very chaotic times, so we have lots of opportunities, Terry, to bring out individually, one by one, and then collectively, the energy of love into the world, because we are building a new world. We are in craziness because that's what happens before you build anew. So I would love the book, the material I teach, to teach each person who is interested and invested how to use any piece of difficulty in their life and be able to use that to create a better and a more profound relationship with the divine within.
Yeah, contribute to the collective. Awesome. Yeah. We need it so much.
It's the number one thing we can do to shift the energy in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how oneness works.
So you shared your email. Where can people find the book, and what else is going on for you right now?
Well, thanks. The book is on Amazon. It's in bookstores around the world. We've gotten 8 5-star reviews in 3 days. It's only been on Amazon and available now for 3 days. You've got me at the very beginning, which is lovely. I am traveling around. Spirit gave me a very synergistic approach to take to educate. So I am offering free all-day workshops to selected spiritual centers, workshops around the book, so we can take people more deeply into the work and train them one-on-one. And each workshop will have a book reading the night before for anyone who can't afford the workshop or doesn't feel like it's right for them, but they want to learn, because we'll be taking them through a practice at the reading, practice from the book. And I have a GoFundMe campaign called Road Warrior for Love to help take me across the country, because during the brain recovery, I went from having a very comfortable lifestyle to having to claim bankruptcy because I couldn't work. And so I am ready to go out there and share this information, but it costs about $1,500 to $2,000 every time you go somewhere for 4 days. So Spirit said, gather the community and have people donate to your GoFundMe to get you on the road. So you're not helping me get on the road to sell books. You're helping me get on the road to offer these workshops free to spiritual centers so they can use it as a fundraiser for them. So everybody is served when I go out on the road. So that's what I'm doing. And it's been exciting. I'm in conversation now with 7 or 8 different spiritual leaders around the country. They're loving this. They're wanting to bring the information to their members, and they're excited about contributing to the consciousness in the world. So that's what I'm 69 years old. I'm not playing pickleball.
67. Here we go. Going on 67. But I love that. I really do. I love that. And like we were already talking about other spiritual teachers, you were sharing communities out west for me. So I do love that. And I do think it's really important
Very much
that we do find ways to collaborate and bring this work forward. I do think it is so important right now. And there's a lot of resistance right now in the world. There's a lot of everybody. It feels to me like people are just holding on. They're unhappy. They complain. They don't know where to make the change. This is how we do it. One step at a time.
Hallelujah, sister.
One breath at a time.
Hallelujah, sister.
Yeah. And a shout out again, once again, to Inner Traditions, just bringing all this work out and providing the opportunity and platforms for people like us, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great company. And they've been doing this for years. Absolutely. Everybody there has been unbelievable, from the title, which we collaborated on, to the cover. I just love them. And I feel so grateful to have landed there.
Awesome. Definitely. So as we go to close, I like to come back and just kind of give our listeners something to leave with. You have been already very inspiring, but how would you say the work that you're doing through Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life can help to empower the spirit right now?
We all have the opportunity, should we choose, to turn any moment of difficulty into an opportunity to raise our consciousness and bring ourselves to peace. So why wouldn't we choose to make that our choice?
Why wouldn't we choose to make peace and love our choice? Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you for all the work you do here, bringing us all together and educating. So appreciate it. So really, truly appreciate your work. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. To your spirit. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yes. Choose peace. Raise your vibration with this energy of love for all your experiences in life. Be present and take that presence off your cushion, off your mat, out into the world. Using these tools and techniques, allow yourself to grow and to shift and tune in to that authentic part of you. Join Selina in her mission. The links for her book and her GoFundMe campaign will be in the show notes. Now is the time to make changes and find ways to raise your vibration. Thanks again for listening. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. To your spirit, namaste. Hey y'all, it's my birthday month, July. And for a gift to you, I have some special bonuses on my website under my services being offered. Check it out and let's do some work together. Now is the time to up your vibration, to grow, and to really understand your purpose right now in humanity. The links will be in the show notes.